Welcome to Wildcard Reads. I'm Wildcard Angel, and today we are going to be doing a monthly wrap-up for the month of March. Now, this past month, I was able to read 5 books. I did not get to all of the books on my TBR that I wanted to. There is one book that's going to be pushed off to April, but that is because one of the books I read was the first book of a trilogy, and it was so good that I had to read the other 2 books. First off, I did read, Libertie by Kaitlyn Greenidge. So the story of Libertie is about a young girl who is born into freedom during a time when slavery is still happening. So there are people who are running from slavery, and her mother is working in medicine, and she's trying to help these people overcome what slavery has done to them mentally and help them understand what freedom is. So her entire journey is wrapped around the idea of her finding out what freedom is for herself. It's a beautiful story. It's historical fiction. It's very moving, and it has a lot of thought-provoking points. I definitely recommend reading it. I rated this book 3.5 stars. I don't want to spoil. I always try to do my reviews with no spoilers, but just fair warning, there is a wee bit of spice in it, but it is spice between a married couple. So if that makes a difference for you, I'm not sure, but that is in there. And I don't know, she's basically, in the end, she decides that no matter what, she is going to be free. So take that as you will. Definitely read the book. Definitely check it out. I absolutely love this next one. Children of Blood and Bone. I cannot pronounce the author's name, but I am popping it up on the screen so that you can see it. Now, this one I rated 5 stars. This is the one that's part of a trilogy that I had to know what happened. I fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with this book. I loved this book so much that I was actually hugging the book and crying for like a good 5 minutes or so after finishing the book, just processing everything that I read. It was incredible. So incredible. I immediately, next day after finishing it, went to the library and got the next 2 books. A few more details about Children of Blood and Bone without trying to give any spoilers. It is a fantasy. It's set in a fantasy world where certain people are able to inhibit powers of gods. So different people have different powers, and there is a monarchy that is going after these people who are different and these people that have powers. I don't want to spoil anything, of course, but there's love, there's lust, there's betrayal, there's heartbreak, there's every human emotion I felt during this book. And the magic aspect is very interesting and different than anything that I've read so far. So I definitely recommend it. After reading Children of Blood and Bone, I actually read the second book because I was so interested to find out what happened next. So the second book is Children of Virtue and Vengeance. So reading Children of Virtue and Vengeance in the second book, it's so hard to give details when you're doing an entire trilogy review, but without ruining the first book. So the second book, there is a lot of war. Definitely a lot of war. They are fighting still, but now it's basically like everyone, maybe not everyone, but now the majority of society in this book does have the godly powers, and everyone's power is different. But even with the majority of the society having godly power, they still find a way to divide between the monarchy and the original people with the powers, and they come up with different names for these groups, and they're still pit against each other. Yeah. So, sounds very familiar to the society that we've known and watched throughout our time and our history. But after this book, I didn't feel as connected to this book as I did the first one. I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. But it wasn't it wasn't as good as the first one. So I did rate the second book 4 stars. And after the second book, I decided it was time to take a break from the trilogy. I no longer had the urge to be like, what's happening next? What's going to happen at the end? I needed a break from it. It definitely brought me down a little bit. It made me just think way too much of society and how things go. And I was not in the right mind space anymore to finish the trilogy. So I did take a little break. And the next book that I read, Where You End. Now, Where You End by Abbott Kahler. I'm assuming it's Kahler. If I mispronounce the author's names, I apologize. I am horrible at names, and some names I'm not even going to attempt. So Where You End is actually a book about a cult, which is what interested me. I've always been interested in cults and the mentality behind it. Trigger warning, this book does involve child abuse. It is not extremely graphic. It is not a type of physical abuse, but there is no way that you could say that there is not child abuse in this book. So I do have to put that out there. I don't want to give too many details about exactly what it is, or I will ruin the entire plot for you. But Where You End was such a good book that I actually finished this book in one day. I would read a few chapters and then put it down for a minute to go do something. I'd have to pick the book back up because I wanted to see where it went. And the writing in this book was so easy to follow, so good. It just flowed so well. So I really enjoyed reading it, even though it was a slightly difficult subject matter. You don't really see where the book's going until maybe a quarter to halfway of the way through the book. And then you're like, oh, there's no warning. So I wanted to give you a little heads up. It's a little dark. Definitely, it's twisted for sure. And there's many twists and turns throughout the book. It starts off with twins who were in a car accident. And one of the twins actually ends up with brain damage. So that's kind of all you know going into the book, is that they were in a cult as children. And one of the twins now has brain damage, and the other twin is trying to keep her from remembering what happened during their childhood. It is such a good read. I highly recommend it. I rated it 4 stars. After reading that book, I was ready to return to the trilogy. So the final book I read for the month was Children of Anguish and Anarchy. Now, this book wraps up the whole trilogy, and it's so hard to give individual book reviews on trilogies without ruining all of them. So what I can say is the plot line in the last book, so everyone had basically magical powers, but they still find a way to divide, and they're fighting against each other. The monarchy versus the people with original magical powers. They still find a way to separate and divide and fight against each other. In the final book, there is a third party that comes in. And I can't tell you exactly what they do or what happens, but there is a third party that comes in, and now the two that were originally fighting have to combine and try to overcome a new enemy. This book is really about society. Like, when you look at our history, when you look at how things go, there's no way you can't relate. There's no way you can't see the connection between these books and history, and even in today's time, of how people are pitted against each other. But the two have to combine and try to now fight this third party that is coming in. There is a lot of war, there's a lot of magic, and everyone is really just wanting to have control of power. That is the main point of the book. Everyone's wanting to have control of power. And so there is also a lot of sacrifice to try to overcome this third party. It was a good read. Again, it was not, I didn't fall in love with it like I did the first book. So again, the first book of this trilogy, like I said, 5 stars. And then the second and third book of this trilogy were 4 stars. And that is all the books that I read, 5 books for the month of March. There is one book that I didn't make it to that was in my TBR, and I do still have it. This is from the library. I get most of my books from the library usually. So, A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch by Sarah Harley. So this book is going to be put on my TBR for April. This will be the first book that I read in April. Definitely still looking forward to it. I just didn't get to it this past month. As for the rest of my April TBR, I will do a video coming up soon of everything that I will be reading. However, I will be doing it differently this month. I will not be going to the library and getting books. Instead, the rest of my TBR for April is actually going to be picked out from the physical books that I already own. So I'm going to be picking out a few books from my physical library, and I will be back soon with an April TBR to let you know what I will be reading in April. Thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. Be sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.